There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the past no longer holds the pen, when what has been must bow to what can be, and I believe with all my heart that moment is now. Pause, with conviction yes you, were not born to be a prisoner of regret. You were not fashioned in divine intention to live in yesterday's shadows. I don't care who you were or where you've been. The author of all time has placed the pen into your trembling hand and whispers, begin again. More intensity, oh, how often we rehearse our failures like sacred scripts. We speak the language of too late, too broken, too small. But I tell you today, burn that script, tear it up, for you are not the character who merely survives the chapter. You are the author who dares to rewrite the ending. There comes a moment in each of our lives when we must confront the truth that the past, no matter how loud or long it has spoken, does not hold the pen anymore. For too long, we allow our yesterday to dictate our today. We wake up wearing labels handed to us by old wounds, past failures, others' opinions, and moments of weakness. We let the past speak over us like it still has authority, as if it knows us better than we know ourselves. But it doesn't. It cannot. Because the past is not the keeper of your becoming. It is simply the soil from which your strength has grown. Some carry the weight of childhood hurts, decisions made in confusion, or chapters marked by shame. There are memories we play like broken records, scenes that replay like they are trying to convince us that we can't move forward, that we aren't worthy of something new. We let those scenes write the narrative, word after word, convincing us that change is impossible, that we are stuck in a story someone else wrote for us. But the truth, eternal, undeniable truth, is this: the past can only repeat itself if you hand it the pen. The turning point, the sacred shift, comes when you say with full authority, no more. Not with anger, not with denial, but with clarity. When you realize you are no longer under the control of what happened then, you can honor where you've come from without being owned by it. You can carry the lessons but leave behind the chains. What happened may have shaped you, but it does not define you. It is not your ceiling. It is not your final word. Every day you wake up is a blank page, and the pen is in your hand. That is a holy power. That is where freedom begins, not in forgetting the past, but in refusing to let it write what comes next. Your history has no authority unless you grant it. The pain, the loss, the mistake. Yes, they may have marked you, but they are not your name. Your name is still being written, and it is full of hope, full of strength, full of fire and grace. The stories you tell yourself become the life you live. If you speak from the voice of the past, you live in its shadows. But if you speak from the truth of your possibility, you move in light. You create momentum, even if it's just a whisper at first. I am not what happened to me. I am not who they said I was. I am not stuck. And every time you say that, every time you breathe that into existence, you loosen the grip of what used to be. You take back the pen. You silence the lie that your best days are behind you. So much of our suffering doesn't come from the pain itself, but from the belief that the pain still has power, that it still owns part of us. But that belief is an illusion. It loses its grip the moment we decide to see ourselves not through the lens of what has happened, but through the lens of what is possible. The moment you do that, truly do that, the past begins to fade. It loses its voice. It becomes a memory instead of a master. And then, for the first time in a long time, you breathe like the author you were born to be. You are not your failures. You are your future. Let that truth settle into the deepest part of your soul. For far too long, we have allowed our missteps, our mistakes, and our regrets to become the framework of who we think we are. We carry failure like a name tag, like it's etched into our identity. But failure was never meant to define you. It was only meant to teach you, to refine you, to sharpen the edges of your purpose and your strength. And yet, we let it speak louder than our dreams. Failure has a voice, yes, but so does your future. And the voice you choose to listen to will determine the life you build. You see, failure wants to convince you that it is permanent, that because you messed up once, or 100 times, your story is over. But that is not truth. That is fear dressed up in the disguise of wisdom. That is shame pretending to be logic. The truth is, this failure is only ever final when you decide to stop moving forward. But as long as there is breath in your lungs, there is still the possibility of change, of restoration, of becoming. Too many people have surrendered their future at the altar of failure. They quit too soon. They bury their passion because something didn't work out. They tell themselves stories like, maybe I wasn't good enough, or maybe I was never meant for more. And those thoughts become prisons. But the moment you recognize that failure is not your identity, it is an experience, you begin to take back your power. You begin to see that who you are is not tied to what went wrong, but to what you still have the courage to do next. Think of every person who has ever built something beautiful. They all walked through moments that felt like endings. They all had doors slammed in their faces. They all heard the voice of doubt. But the difference was they didn't stop there. They understood that failure is not a reflection of their worth. It is simply feedback. It says, try again, but do it differently. It says, you are growing. It says, something in you is being awakened. The fire inside you is not fueled by perfection. It is fueled by persistence. You don't need to have a flawless past to have a powerful future. You just need a decision, a moment where you say, yes, I failed, but that's not who I am. I am not the version of myself that made that mistake. I am the one who got back up. There is something holy about standing in your brokenness and choosing to keep going. Something sacred about refusing to be reduced to your lowest moment. And here's the deeper truth. What you call failure may actually be the thing that saves you. Sometimes failure strips away what was never meant for you in the first place. Sometimes it forces you to confront parts of yourself that need healing, growth, transformation. Sometimes it brings you face to face with your deepest strength. The kind of strength that can't be taught, only earned. And from that place you don't just rise. You rise stronger, wiser, braver than before. So when you look at your reflection, don't see the disappointments of the past. Don't see the decisions you wish you could undo. Look into your own eyes and recognize the untapped potential that still lives in you. Your future is not cancelled because of failure. It is calling you. It is waiting for you to believe in it more than you believe in your fear. Burn the script of limitation. The one you've been reading from your whole life. The one written in fear, in scarcity, in silence. That script was never yours to begin with. It was written by voices that didn't know your spirit, by experiences that clouded your clarity, by people who couldn't see the fire in you because they'd long forgotten their own. And yet you've held on to it. You've let it dictate your decisions, your relationships, your self-worth. It told you to stay small. It told you not to reach too high. It told you that dreaming was dangerous, that hope was naive, and that failure was proof you should quit. But that script is a lie. It's a collection of fears pretending to be facts. And you don't have to keep reading from it. There comes a time when you must look at the script in your hands, the one covered in doubt, in shame, in rules that never belong to you, and decide to set it on fire. Not just put it away, not just hide it in a drawer, but burn it. Destroy the version of your life that was built on survival instead of vision. Burn the beliefs that told you you're too late, too damaged, too much, or not enough. Burn the idea that your potential has an expiration date. That's not truth, that's conditioning. That's the echo of a world afraid of people who know who they are. Limitation isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers. It sounds like maybe later, or I don't think I can, or what will they say? It wears the disguise of logic. It parades as practicality. It tells you to be realistic. But what is realistic to someone who has never seen the fullness of your purpose? What is logical to someone who doesn't know what you carry in your spirit? You were not made to fit within someone else's comfort zone. You were made to stretch, to break molds, to rise where others fall, and to create what has never existed before. The script of limitation thrives when you forget who you are. It survives on your silence, on your agreement. Every time you say, I guess this is just the way it is, that script gets stronger. Every time you settle, it writes another paragraph. But every time you resist, every time you question it, every time you say, I think there's more for me than this, you begin to tear pages out. And one day, if you're brave enough, you light a match and watch the whole thing go up in flames. And that fire, that beautiful fire, becomes the warmth of your freedom. Limitation is learned. You weren't born with it. Look at a child, they don't doubt their ability to imagine, to speak, to sing, to try. That kind of faith is your natural state. It only fades because someone, somewhere, told you not to shine so brightly, told you to tone it down, told you to play it safe. But your spirit remembers. Deep down, you still know how to be free. You still know how to believe beyond what you see. You still know how to move like the world is not your boundary but your canvas. Burn the script that says you must earn love. Burn the one that says your dreams are too big for someone like you. Burn the one that says if it hasn't happened yet, it never will. Those are not sacred truths. They are old wounds dressed up as wisdom. And they have no place in the story you're meant to live. You're not here to repeat someone else's limitations. You're here to rewrite the narrative completely. To do what hasn't been done. To go where no one thought possible. To become fully, wildly, unapologetically yourself. The ink of destiny is still wet. Begin again. So many people live as though their story has already been carved in stone, as though the pages of their life have been permanently printed and bound. They speak of themselves in past tense, like the most vibrant parts of who they are behind them, sealed in memories, closed off by time or failure or circumstance. But destiny does not work that way. Destiny is not rigid, it is alive, unfolding with every choice you make, every step you take, every breath you dare to take with intention. The ink of your future has not dried. It's still being written, still forming, still open to revision. The idea that it's too late is one of the greatest lies people tell themselves. They look at the years they feel they've wasted, the opportunities they think they've missed, the dreams they didn't chase, and they assume the story is over. But just because a chapter took a turn you didn't expect, doesn't mean the entire book has been written. You have the power to pick up the pen, to pause the narrative, to turn the page, and start again. The beauty of being human is that you are not fixed in place. You were never meant to be. Life doesn't require perfection, it only requires presence. Destiny is not a straight line. It's a dance of falling and rising, learning and unlearning, trying and trying again. You don't need to get everything right the first time. You don't need to have it all figured out. You simply need to say yes to what's next. The ink is still wet, which means the story is still flexible. It means you are not disqualified. It means possibility is still available to you, even now. What stops most people from beginning again is not the lack of opportunity, but the weight of self-judgment. They carry around this internal voice that says, "You had your chance," or "You should have known better." But shame has no rightful place in the writing of your destiny. Mistakes are not evidence that you're lost. They're evidence that you're trying. And there is nothing more courageous than trying again when you have every reason not to. When you've been hurt, disappointed, misunderstood, and still choose to believe that something new is possible. To begin again does not mean to erase what has been. It means to honor the past without being held hostage by it. It means to take all that you've lived, all that you've lost, and all that you've learned, and use it as the foundation for something even more true. You may not start with a blank page, but that doesn't mean you can't write something beautiful. The ink is still wet, still soft enough for change, for course correction, for divine interruption. Destiny is not reserved for the perfect. It is not locked behind the doors of the past. It is not something you find once and hold forever. It is something you choose moment by moment, again and again. You begin again when you decide that what's ahead is worth facing, no matter what's behind you. You begin again when you believe, even faintly, that you were meant for more than just surviving. You begin again every time you say, "This is not the end of me," even if the world has counted you out, even if you've counted yourself out, even if nothing around you looks like growth, purpose, or progress. The ink of destiny waits for you to take hold of the narrative. It waits for the moment you stop living by default and start living by design. The moment you realize that the power to create is not in what you've done, but in what you're still willing to do next. No one is coming. You are already here. We spend so much of our lives waiting. Waiting for someone to rescue us, someone to believe in us, someone to validate our worth, someone to open a door, to give us permission to start living boldly. We wait for the right timing, the right words, the right feeling, the right sign. We stand at the edge of our potential, staring out into what could be, and still hesitate, hoping something or someone will come along and pull us into our purpose. But what if no one is coming because you were never meant to be saved? What if the one you've been waiting for is already inside of you? There is a voice within that has always known what you were capable of. Even when everything around you tried to silence it, that voice stayed. It speaks in moments of stillness, in glimpses of clarity, in the ache you feel when you're not living in alignment. That voice is not asking for approval. It is not waiting for applause. It is calling you to rise, to recognize that the help you're hoping for is already within you. You are not broken, and you are not missing a piece. You are not lacking what it takes. You are already enough as you are where you are. We've been conditioned to think that power lies somewhere outside of us, that authority belongs to the experts, the leaders, the loud voices in the room. That wisdom lives in someone else's book, someone else's success, someone else's journey. But real power is quiet and rooted. It lives in the ones who have looked within and said, "I may not have all the answers, but I refuse to be passive in my own life." When you realize that no one is coming to do the work for you, to heal for you, to dream for you, to speak for you, something shifts. You begin to reclaim everything you once gave away. The world has tried to convince you to wait your turn, to earn your right to belong, to prove yourself before you believe in yourself. But you do not need to prove what you already carry. You are not a question waiting for someone else's answer. You are the answer waiting to be fully lived. There is no mentor, no relationship, no title, no circumstance that can give you what already belongs to you. Your voice, your intuition, your purpose, they are not borrowed. They are born from within, and they are ready now. You have spent long enough asking others for permission to be who you are, long enough looking at your reflection and wondering if it's time yet. It is time, not because someone said so, but because the moment you stop deferring your power is the moment your life begins to align. You don't need more approval. You need more ownership. You need to stand in your own name, on your own feet, and declare that you are not waiting anymore. Every answer you seek, every breakthrough you crave, every shift you hope for, it begins with you. It begins the moment you stop outsourcing your courage. The moment you stop hoping someone else will do the hard thing for you. You already have what it takes to walk through the fear, to choose healing, to pursue the dream, to say yes to your life in a way you never have before. You are not missing anything. You are not waiting for your power to arrive. It has been with you all along. No one is coming to write your story. No one is coming to live your truth. No one is coming to fight for the life that only you can create. The pen is in your hands. The fire is in your chest. The time is now because you are here now. The past is a lesson, not a sentence. Yet so many live as though their history is a life sentence, a chain around their necks, a verdict that can never be appealed. They carry shame like it's part of their DNA, dragging every regret and mistake into every new moment, as though they must always atone for what they once did or didn't do. They walk through life rehearsing pain, clinging to old identities, afraid to grow beyond what has already happened. But the past is not a prism, it is a classroom, it is not your identity, it is your instruction. And it was never meant to define you, only to refine you. What happened yesterday does not have the authority to dictate what unfolds today unless you allow it. The purpose of a lesson is not to punish, but to reveal, to show you something you didn't know before, to awaken wisdom, to develop strength, to deepen compassion. Your past is filled with moments that shaped you. Yes, but it is not where you live. You don't belong to what broke you. You belong to what you are building now. So many people confuse memory with identity. They believe because they made a decision 10 years ago, or walked through a season of brokenness, or lost themselves in something or someone that they must forever be labeled by it. But you are not a label. You are not a failure. You are not a statistic. You are a becoming. And becoming means you are in motion. The past does not get to fossilize your identity when growth is still possible. There are people walking around with a future full of promise but eyes stuck on rearview mirrors. They keep reliving old conversations, rehearsing old wounds, believing old lies. And in doing so, they miss the miracle of now. They miss the opportunity to see how far they've come, how much they've healed, how different they already are. You are not the same person who walked through that pain. You are not the same version of yourself who made those choices. And even if no one else sees the difference yet, you know. You feel it in the way you respond differently, in the way you pause, in the way your soul leans toward truth instead of shame. The lesson of the past is not always comfortable. It's not always kind. Sometimes it's sharp. Sometimes it leaves bruises. But those bruises become the places where wisdom settles in, where your heart opens instead of hardens, where grace becomes more than a concept. It becomes how you live, how you speak, how you see yourself. The past isn't here to haunt you. It's here to teach you what freedom truly looks like. You don't have to forget what happened. You don't have to pretend it didn't affect you. But you do have to choose whether it becomes a wall or a window, whether it traps you or trains you, whether it limits your future or deepens your purpose. There is power in owning your past without letting it own you, in saying, yes, that was part of my story, but it is not the whole of me. The moment you do that, the moment you stop hiding from what was, is the moment you start transforming what is. There is no shame in your scars. They are the evidence that you survived what tried to stop you. And now you get to decide how that survival shapes you. Will you shrink beneath the weight of what was? Or will you rise with the wisdom of someone who has seen darkness and still chooses light? The past is a place to visit, not to build your home. It holds lessons meant to guide, not chains meant to bind. There is no expiration date on becoming. Somewhere along the way, you may have been told that there's a timeline for growth, for healing, for dreaming. That if it hasn't happened by a certain age, it won't. That if the door didn't open at a particular season, it's sealed shut forever. That if you miss the opportunity once, it will never return. But that is a myth crafted by fear and comparison. The truth is, becoming is not bound by time. It is not restricted by calendars or clocks. Becoming is an eternal unfolding, a sacred transformation that honors your pace, your journey, your unique rhythm. You are not too late. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are still becoming, And the beauty of becoming is that it allows for delayed detours and even disaster. It makes space for setbacks. It embraces the fact that life is messy, unpredictable, and sometimes painful. You don't need to rush to be whole. You don't need to meet someone else's deadline to be worthy of becoming everything you're meant to be. There is no expiration on your potential, your purpose, or your peace. Becoming is not a moment, it's a movement within your spirit. It's the quiet decision to keep growing even when nothing around you validates your progress. It's the courage to wake up each day and believe that change is still possible. It's the strength to say, I may not be there yet, but I'm not staying here. It's the kind of grace that lets you evolve, not because you hate who you've been, but because you know there's more within you still waiting to rise. People may look at your timeline and make judgments. They may wonder why it took so long. They may not understand the seasons you've walked through, the battles you've faced in silence, the healing that had to happen in the dark. But their misunderstanding does not cancel your growth. What they don't see is the becoming that took root beneath the surface. The slow, sacred work of rising when no one was watching. The long nights you kept showing up for yourself when it would have been easier to give up. That is becoming too. Your story is not on a schedule created by others. It unfolds according to your spirit, your readiness, and your healing. Some flowers bloom in spring, some in summer, some in autumn, some in the frost of winter when nothing else dares to rise, and none are less beautiful because of when they bloom. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to arrive late, different, unexpected. You are allowed to grow in ways that surprise even you. What matters is not how fast you become. It's that you don't stop. It's that you keep allowing yourself to shed what no longer serves you. That you keep making space for the person you're becoming, even if no one else understands the transformation taking place. The world may celebrate fast success, instant change, sudden results. But true becoming is often slow, quiet, and unseen. It happens in the pause between failures, in the breath before you try again, in the decision to rise without proof that rising will work. You are not done. You are not past your prime. You are not locked into any one version of yourself. You are still evolving, still shedding, still awakening. There is no age limit on becoming more compassionate, more grounded, more bold. There is no deadline for discovering your voice, your calling, your freedom. You are still clay in the hands of a greater possibility, still being shaped by purpose, still being refined by time, pain, joy, and surrender. The smallest step can open the greatest door. Too often, we wait for massive change, for clear signs, for dramatic shifts before we move. We think transformation has to be loud, noticeable, and immediate. But the truth is, real change begins in the quiet moments, in the tiniest decisions, in the seemingly insignificant acts of courage that no one sees. We overlook the power of a single step because we've been trained to only value the finish line. But the door you've been waiting for doesn't swing open from grand gestures. It responds to the faithfulness of just taking one step. One step toward healing, even when you still feel broken. One step toward forgiveness, even if bitterness hasn't fully let go. One step toward your dream, even if you can't see the full path. One step toward speaking truth, even if your voice shakes. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to be yours. The smallest step, when taken with intention, becomes a declaration that you are willing to move forward even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. That is what opens doors, not certainty, but courage. We underestimate beginnings because they don't look like breakthroughs. We dismiss small actions because they don't carry applause. But the smallest step has the potential to change the entire trajectory of your life. A single choice can disrupt a pattern that's held you hostage for years. A quiet yes can shift your direction. A whispered prayer can stir the atmosphere. The key is not the size of the step. It's the willingness to take it when everything in you wants to stay still. There is power in movement, power in defying the voice that tells you to wait until you're stronger, until you're ready, until you're worthy. Sometimes the only way to become ready is to begin. Sometimes the only way to find your strength is to stretch into the unknown. Doors don't open because we stand still and wish. They open because we dare to reach, to knock, to press, even when we are trembling. Faith lives in the action, not in the waiting. It breathes in motion. The greatest changes in life rarely feel grand at the start. They feel uncertain, uncomfortable, unfamiliar. They feel like a seed being planted in rocky ground. But seeds don't look like the forests they become. They don't look like the shade they'll provide or the fruit they'll one day bear. But that doesn't mean the miracle isn't already inside. In the same way, your smallest step today might look insignificant. It might not be celebrated or even noticed, but that step is planting something. That step is sacred. That step is a beginning. You are not called to leap the whole distance in one move. You are not expected to see the end from the beginning. You are simply invited to take one step in the direction of your calling, one step in the direction of your healing, one step in the direction of your wholeness. That's all. The rest comes as you move. The clarity comes as you walk. The strength comes as you stretch. The light appears not before the step, but because of the step. The journey is revealed one movement at a time, and each movement matters. Do not despise small beginnings. Do not doubt the power of starting again, even if it feels like you've started 1,000 times. Every time you rise, every time you try, every time you choose to believe that something more is possible, you create a new opening. A door you couldn't see before begins to creak open. A way is made. A shift begins. The breakthrough is in the motion. The change is in the decision to try again. The smallest step taken in faith can lead you into the greatest transformation of your life. You are not bound by what has been. You are empowered by what can be. This is your moment, not to wish for a different past, but to write a different future. You are the author of tomorrow, holding the pen with hands that may tremble but still choose to create. Every breath is a new sentence. Every step a new paragraph. You are not waiting for a sign. You are the sign. You are not waiting for a rescue. You are the revolution. Rewrite your story not because the world demands it, but because your soul deserves it. The past may inform you, but it does not define you. The present is yours to claim, and the future is yours to shape. Now is the time. Begin again. Write boldly. Live fully.